The rain fell in sheets across the empty highway as James Harrington slammed his palm against the steering wheel of his $300,000 Ferrari. Steam hissed from under the hood, mingling with the downpour. He was stranded in the middle of nowhere, his phone dead, wearing Italian leather shoes that were about to be ruined in mud. That's when he saw her, a little girl in yellow rain boots, standing beside a rusty pickup truck, watching him with curious eyes. "My dad can fix it," she whispered, and those 5 simple words would change everything he thought he knew about value. If you're enjoying this story of unexpected connections and life-changing moments, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories that remind us what truly matters in life. James had built his fortune in tech, creating apps that connected people digitally while he himself grew increasingly disconnected from humanity. At 42, he had 3 homes, countless investments, and not a single person who would answer his call at 3 a.m. if he needed help. The board meeting he was racing to would decide the fate of 200 employees he'd never met. He'd planned to lay them off without a second thought. "What's your name?" James asked the little girl, trying to keep irritation from his voice as rain soaked through his custom suit. "Lily," she answered, twirling a strand of her dark hair. "My dad's name is Mike. He fixes everything. Even things people think can't be fixed anymore." The pickup truck door opened, and a man in worn jeans and a faded flannel shirt stepped out. His hands were calloused, nails permanently stained with grease. He nodded at James without a hint of being impressed by the exotic car or the man's obvious wealth. "Looks like you've got trouble," Mike said simply. "Pop the hood and let's take a look." James hesitated. "This is a specialized vehicle. It needs specialized tools, specialized mechanics." Mike's laugh cut through the rain. "An engine's an engine, friend. Some are fancier than others, but they all work on the same principles." Reluctantly, James popped the hood. What choice did he have? The nearest luxury dealership was hours away, and the board meeting wouldn't wait. As Mike leaned over the engine, Lily stood beside her father, handing him tools from a battered box without being asked. Their silent communication spoke of years of working together. "Your daughter seems to know her way around engines," James commented, trying to make conversation as the rain continued to fall. "She's been my assistant since she was 4, Mike said with unmistakable pride. "Her mom passed when she was 3. It's just been us since then." James felt something twist inside him. His own daughter was 12, living with his ex-wife in another state. He couldn't remember the last time they'd had a real conversation. He sent money, expensive gifts, but had never taught her anything with his own hands. "There's your problem," Mike pointed to a ruptured hose. "Coolant line burst. I can rig something temporary that'll get you to town." As Mike worked, Lily chatted away, telling James about her school, her friends, and how she and her dad fixed up old bicycles on weekends to give to kids who couldn't afford them. James found himself listening, really listening, for the first time in years. "Why do you do that?" James asked Mike as he finished the repair. "Fix bikes for free when you could charge for your time?" Mike wiped his hands on a rag. "Some things you do for money. Some things you do because they need doing." He shrugged. "Lily's mom used to say that wealth isn't what you have, it's what you give away." The repair complete, James tried to press $500 into Mike's hand. The mechanic refused. "Not necessary. Just pay it forward sometime." As James prepared to leave, Lily tugged on his sleeve. "Are you going to fix those people's jobs?" she asked innocently. James stared at her, stunned. "What? You were talking on your phone before it died. You said something about fixing a company by letting people go. Dad says that when something's broken, you don't throw it away. You find a way to make it work better." The simplicity of her words struck him like lightning. For weeks, he'd been looking at spreadsheets, not people. Numbers, not lives. The temporary fix to his company's problems would cause permanent damage to hundreds of families. James arrived at his meeting 3 hours late, his expensive suit still damp, his presentation notes abandoned. Instead of announcing layoffs, he proposed a restructuring plan that would save jobs by investing in worker training and innovation. His board was skeptical until he laid out the long-term benefits with a passion they'd never seen in him before. That night, alone in his penthouse apartment overlooking the city lights, James couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Lily's innocent face, hearing Mike's simple wisdom. He pulled out his laptop and began researching the company's employees, not their productivity metrics, but their stories. Many had been with the company for years. They had families, dreams, mortgages. Some were single parents, like Mike. For the first time, James saw them as people, not line items on a budget. The next morning, James called his ex-wife. "I'd like to see Emma this weekend," he said, referring to his daughter. There was surprise in his ex-wife's voice. He usually only saw Emma on scheduled holidays. "She has a science project due," his ex-wife said cautiously. "Something about simple machines." "Perfect," James replied. "I can help her with that." That weekend, instead of taking Emma to an expensive restaurant or buying her another gadget she didn't need, James cleared out space in his garage. Together, they built a Rube Goldberg machine, making mistakes, laughing, starting over. Emma's eyes lit up when their contraption finally worked, marbles rolling down tracks, knocking over dominoes, eventually ringing a bell. "Dad, we fixed it," she exclaimed, and James felt his heart swell at words he hadn't heard in years. "We sure did, sweetheart," he replied, thinking of Lily and her father. Over the next few months, James transformed his company. Instead of outsourcing, he invested in training programs. He visited factories and offices, learning names, listening to suggestions from employees at all levels. Productivity improved, not because people feared losing their jobs, but because they felt valued. James also began a personal transformation. He started a mentorship program at local schools, teaching business skills but also values. He reconnected with old friends he'd neglected during his climb to success. He even started dating again, a kindergarten teacher named Sarah who challenged his thinking and made him laugh. 6 months after the breakdown on that rainy highway, James drove the same route deliberately. He pulled up to a small garage with a hand-painted sign, "Mike's Repairs, we fix what others won't." Inside, he found Mike and Lily working on an ancient tractor. "Your temporary fix held all the way to the city," James said by way of greeting. "And it gave me time to think about some other things that needed fixing." Mike nodded, recognition dawning. "Glad to hear it. I've started a foundation," James continued. "Funding technical education and apprenticeship programs. I was hoping you might consider being on the advisory board. We need people who understand the value of fixing things." Mike looked skeptical. "I'm just a small-town mechanic. I don't know anything about running foundations." "That's exactly why I need you," James insisted. "You understand what matters. You see value where others see junk. You fix what others would throw away." As they talked, Lily showed James how she was learning to rebuild an engine. Her small hands moved with confidence, explaining each part with pride. James thought of Emma, who now spent every weekend with him. They were building a treehouse together, learning as they went. "How's your company doing?" Mike asked, wiping grease from a carburetor. "Better than ever," James replied honestly. "We're growing again, but differently. Sustainably. We're investing in people instead of just profits." Mike nodded approvingly. "Sounds like you fixed it right, not just quick." That evening, James invited Mike and Lily to dinner at the local diner. Emma was with him, and the two girls hit it off immediately, despite their age difference. As the children chatted, Mike leaned across the table. "Your daughter's got a good heart," he said quietly. "She was showing Lily pictures of the treehouse you're building. Said it was the best thing you've ever done together." James felt his throat tighten. I almost missed it, you know. Almost missed her growing up because I was too busy chasing success. But you didn't miss it, Mike pointed out. You course-corrected. That's what good mechanics do, they notice when something's not running right and they fix it before it breaks down completely. After dinner, as they stood in the parking lot, James's Ferrari parked incongruously next to Mike's pickup, Lily tugged on James's sleeve. Mr. James, did you know my dad turned down a job at a big garage in the city? She said proudly. They wanted to pay him lots of money, but he said he needed to stay here because people here need him. James looked at Mike questioningly. People here can't afford to buy new when something breaks, Mike explained simply. They need someone who can fix things, make them last longer. The fancy garage in the city, they just replace parts. They don't really fix anything. On the drive home, Emma fell asleep in the passenger seat of the Ferrari. James glanced at her peaceful face and realized something profound. Success wasn't measured in the car you drove or the house you owned. It was measured in moments like these, in connections made, in lessons passed down, in things fixed rather than discarded. A year later, James's foundation had funded technical education programs in 20 schools across the state. Mike had reluctantly joined the advisory board and brought practical wisdom that balanced James's business acumen. The foundation's first project had been rebuilding Mike's garage, expanding it into a training center where local youth could learn trades. James still ran his tech company, but differently now. He'd implemented a 4-day workweek, finding that productivity actually increased when people had time for their families and personal projects. He'd established a policy that no employee would be laid off without first exploring retraining options. The company's motto, displayed prominently in the lobby, read, "We don't discard. We rebuild." His relationship with Emma had blossomed. She spent alternate weeks with him now, by her own choice. Their treehouse had become a neighborhood gathering spot, with other parents and children joining in to expand it. James had learned the names of all Emma's friends, their parents, their pets. One rainy afternoon, almost identical to the day they'd first met, James visited Mike's garage with Emma. They found Lily, now 9, teaching a group of children how to fix their bicycles. My dad says bikes are like people, she was explaining seriously. They all work basically the same way, but each one has its own quirks. You have to listen to what they're telling you. James caught Mike's eye, and they shared a smile of understanding. The mechanic had become one of his closest friends, a confidant who kept him grounded when success threatened to pull him back into old patterns. You know, Mike said quietly as they watched the children, when you first pulled up in that fancy car, I thought you were just another rich guy who'd look down on us. I probably was, James admitted. But someone very wise once told me that my car needed fixing. Turns out, it wasn't just the car. As they stood there, Emma ran up excitedly. Dad! Lily's teaching me how to fix my bike chain. I won't need you to take it to the shop anymore. That's wonderful, sweetheart, James replied, feeling a complex mix of pride and a touch of sadness that she needed him a little less. Mike seemed to read his thoughts. That's the thing about being a good parent, he said. You teach them to not need you, even though you always want to be needed. How did you get so wise? James asked. Mike laughed. Trial and error, mostly. Just like fixing engines. That evening, as James drove Emma back to his home, no longer a sterile penthouse but a warm house with a yard and that famous treehouse, she asked a question that stopped him cold. Dad, are you happier now than when you were just rich? James considered the question carefully. I'm not just rich anymore, Em. I'm wealthy in ways I never understood before. And yes, I'm much, much happier. Emma nodded sagely. I thought so. You laugh more now. As they pulled into the driveway, Sarah was waiting on the porch. She'd moved in 3 months ago, bringing warmth and laughter to their home. She waved as they approached. How was your day with the Fix-It crew? She called. Amazing. Emma replied, running up to hug her. Lily taught me how to fix a bike chain and Mr. Mike showed me how an alternator works. Later that night, after Emma was asleep, James sat with Sarah on the porch swing, watching fireflies dance in the yard. I got a call from the business magazine today, he told her. They want to do a feature on the company's turnaround. They're calling it the compassionate capitalism model. Sarah squeezed his hand. Are you going to do it? James nodded. I think so. But I want to make sure they understand it wasn't my idea. It came from a little girl in yellow rain boots who believed her dad could fix anything. And could he? Sarah asked, though she knew the answer. He fixed more than he'll ever know, James replied softly. He fixed me. The next day, James drove to Mike's garage again, this time alone. He found the mechanic under an old Chevy, only his legs visible. Mike, James called. I need your help with something important. Mike slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag. What's broken now? James smiled. Nothing's broken. For once, everything's working perfectly. That's why I need your help. He explained about the magazine article, about wanting to share their story, about the foundation's plans to expand nationally. The thing is, James concluded, none of this would have happened if you hadn't been willing to help a stranded stranger that day. If Lily hadn't believed her dad could fix anything. I want people to understand that sometimes the most valuable lessons come from unexpected teachers. Mike looked uncomfortable with the praise. I just fixed a hose, James. You did all the rest yourself. No, James insisted. You showed me what real value looks like. You taught me that fixing is better than replacing. You reminded me what matters. As they talked, Lily burst into the garage, school backpack still on her shoulders. Dad! Mr. James! I got an A on my essay about what I want to be when I grow up. That's wonderful, sweetheart, Mike said, giving her a one-armed hug, careful not to get grease on her clothes. What did you write about? Lily beamed. I wrote that I want to be like both of you. I want to fix things like Dad, and I want to help people like Mr. James. I want to show people that sometimes the most broken things can become the most beautiful if someone just takes the time to fix them. James felt tears prick his eyes. Out of the mouths of babes came the most profound wisdom. You know what, Lily, he said, kneeling to her level. I think you're already doing exactly that. And in that moment, in a humble garage that smelled of oil and metal, surrounded by broken things waiting to be made whole again, James understood the full circle of his journey. It had begun with 5 simple words from a child who believed in her father's ability to fix what was broken. It would continue as long as he remembered the lesson, that true wealth isn't measured in what you have, but in what you repair, what you rebuild, and what you pass on to others. My dad can fix it, the little girl had whispered to the millionaire stranded beside his Ferrari. And in doing so, she had fixed something far more valuable than any car, she had fixed a man who had forgotten what truly mattered.